Hello and welcome to Movies, Films, and Flicks. I am Mark Hoffmeyer, and joining me is a man who wishes that we recorded this episode on a Tuesday. It's Professor Mike Dillon.
Good morning, Shadaloo.
Oh, that's the way I was going to start it. You know, it's funny. I saw that and I was like, I'm going to start the episode like that, but I
Oh,
didn't
beat you
write it
to it.
down. So I'm glad you did it. That's that announced this movie, Professor Mike Dillon. I love it, and I've loved it since '94. I understand all the shortcomings of it, but it's always worked for
It's got
me.
one or two. It's got one or two.
Yeah, just a few, and I get it. But you have Raul Julia just owning it. So I need a fourth, but I have like a Mount Rushmore of, or like a letterbox top four, whatever it is, of like amazing performances in movies that are considered bad. So I have Frank Langella in Masters of the Universe. That he just sells it.
Okay.
I have Dolph Lundgren in Universal Soldier. And when I say bad, I'm talking about critical scores like Rotten Tomatoes, not like a lot of people love these movies. And then I have Raul Julia in Street Fighter. So I have three of them. I just need a fourth because I all think they're not award worthy, but what they give, no, none of them had to give what they gave to their performances. And so I have three out of four. I got to find, I don't want to force the fourth, but I currently have three right now that I love.
Well, they're all villain performances too.
Yeah, that's
Is
true.
that criteria?
Yeah, well, yeah, villains, and it's just, but like, there's this scene in a supermarket in Universal Soldier where Dolph Lundgren, what he delivers, you're like, Dolph could do this, and you're watching the Tuesday speech from this, you're watching Langella just be like a curious quartet, and just slaying all of his dialogue in Masters of the Universe, and like just what they brought to those roles, it adds so much legitimacy to them. So yeah, I need a fourth, but it has to be a villain and it has to be in a movie considered, like, critically speaking, Rotten Tomatoes speaking, or even IMDb to be bad.
I
So
have to give that some thought. For some reason, I keep thinking Gary Oldman and Leon, but I don't think that's considered a bad movie.
oh yeah, people love that flick. This is for Matilda.
Yeah.
Another 94 film.
Everyone.
Yeah. That's another 94 film that we're talking about.
Yeah.
94 was a weird year for movies for me because I saw The Crow in the theaters, but then I
Sure.
went and watched Street Fighter in the theaters. I saw Pulp Fiction in the theaters. I went up to a theater when it was opening. I was like one for Time Cop, and the guy at the ticket, counter just smiled at me and sold me a ticket. It's like 12 was the year when I just started going like to the theater to watch R-rated movies, and I don't think I'll ever forget the experiences I had. Speed, True Lies, even like Forrest Gump
Sure.
and all, like Lion King. Like it was such a great year for movies.
Yeah, it's
Uh,
it's considered a strong year because of Gump, because of Shawshank, because of Lion
yeah.
King. But then, sort of on our end of the spectrum, yeah, you get your Street Fighter, The Crow, Time Cop. Yeah, it's a solid year. 99 is also a really solid year.
I was working in
Um,
a theater during that year, and I just got to watch everything, and it was incredible. Yeah, 99. Yeah. And then, I like '04 a lot too. 5 year
oh,
intervals.
oh 04, huh? So Eternal Sunshine,
Yeah, just, I don't know, Garden
uh,
State.
Passion of the Christ.
Oh yeah, I watched that. But so I finally had money in '04 when I was in college. I was a bouncer at a bar. So I got $50 a night when I bounced. And for a kid in college, you're getting some bank right there, $50 a
Yeah.
night to in cash. And so there was a local independent theater near me. And I remember going to watch movies like Murder Ball, maybe Elephant, Primer, stuff like that, Layer Cake, those kind of independent films in college at a independent theater where I was pretty much the only person there
Mhm.
watching these movies. And they're such great memories. Like I just remember, and also I went to go see Dawn of the Dead in Houston, and it was in a packed theater, and everyone went insane. So I don't know if it's the best year, but as far as memories go, I love '04. So, and also I watched Blade Trinity, and it helped me lose 50 pounds. So that's another reason why 2004 movies stick out in my memory.
You're gonna have to explain that a bit.
So, so I worked out a
What?
lot in college. I got to like 250. I could bench press 350, press 185 pounds,
God, brag.
curl 100 plus pounds, with like 90 pounds in each hand curling. But I was playing basketball, blew my knee out, had to get surgery, and I was like, I'm too heavy. I was like, I'm not getting paid for any of this. Like, I need to lose some weight because just like why am I doing this to myself? And I watched Blade Trinity, and I was like, man, he's looking jacked. So there was like a Men's Health or one of those magazines, and I saw everything that he ate, and I couldn't afford everything that he did, and I didn't have the time or a personal trainer, but I kind of based my diet around his, and it helped me lose 50 pounds. So yeah, Blade Trinity helped me lose 50 pounds, Professor
I'm
Mike
sure,
Dillon.
yeah, I'm sure your listeners really appreciate this sort of chronicling of just what a stud Mark Hoffman.
This, I was, yeah, I don't know. 04 was a weird time. I had like weird facial hair. I wore cargo shorts a lot. My brother was a manager at Abercrombie, so he got me a good deal on cargo shorts and
Got it.
a lot of ringer t-shirts.
But what I'm picturing is probably a lot funnier than what it really
Yeah,
was.
just high, big hair. It was a weird year.
What was I
Awkward.
doing in '94? I don't know.
Yeah,
I have no idea. I did see this in theaters though. It
what'd you
was a
think?
big deal. I probably recognized that it was goofy, but maybe not in the best way.
Oh,
The thing is, like, I played the game. I was a fan of the game, and so I, I was probably disappointed at the time, just because I mean, the movie has the same problem that one would have with something like this, which is just shoehorning in every character and every nook and cranny you can, and the whole thing ends up just being too bloated and just incoherent. And so, yeah, I probably had quibbles about why would you make Guile the main character when clearly the in-game franchise, the main characters Ryu or Chun-Li, those seem to be the ones to focus on, and later iterations of the franchise and like various cartoons that have come out recognize that. And so the kind of coding the story or wrapping it around the stardom of Jean-Claude Van Damme, I think felt a little off even to me at the time. Plus, Kyle's an American, right? If the gigantic American flag tattoo on his bicep isn't a giveaway, he's meant to be an American, not like a French Legionnaire or anything that would be more befitting of that accent. But yeah, that I don't know. I think I was a little hung up on the cultural authenticity of it, the inauthenticity of it a little bit at the time. The whole thing felt off, but I think I chuckled at it.
I had the luxury of watching this when I was 12 and living in a small town in America. But I guess for people over in Japan, where like this game, Street Fighter was popular where I was at. Like we loved Street Fighter. I just do the slaps with the Honda, and everyone hated me. But I was that guy. But over in
You're
Japan
a
though,
spammer.
yeah, exactly. People hated that. But yeah, when like, well, they got so good at it, and like they knew every single move, and so I never had a chance because they invested so much time into it. So I was like, I'm just gonna cheat. I'm just gonna do this. I'll never be as good in a head up fight. So I'm just gonna like test you. And the people who knew how to get around that just whoop the floor with me. But like, what were
No,
people thinking? Oh, sorry.
The Street Fighter 2. Well, so a little bit of game history here. I don't know if you've ever played the original Street Fighter from earlier in the
Mm-mm.
80s. It sucks. Yeah, nobody remembers or cares about this game. So when we talk about the pop culture legacy of the Street Fighter franchise, we're talking about two, which is maybe the most influential sort of 2D fighting game of all time. It introduced gameplay mechanics that are staples of the genre today, and I think most crucially, the introduction of a roster of characters with different fighting styles that were bespoke and reflections of their cultures and specialities. Before then, characters had like identical move sets; they just had slightly different looks to them. And so, Street Fighter 2 not only kind of cracked the roster of characters wide open and gave you a lot more variety, it also marks this really important step in like cultural mixing in video games.
Yeah.
Although, granted, the characters are at the time rooted in really absurd ethnic stereotypes and whatnot, but it's really indicative of this sort of post-Cold War philosophy of globalization. And the way I think the film reflects this the most is in the way in which like enemies and alliances are not grouped together by the old coherent models of nationality or racial unity or anything like that. It's a complete hodgepodge of cultures on both the good guy and bad guy sides. And so that struck me as interesting and very much of its moment, right? That's the kind of legacy that Street Fighter 2 really brought to game culture, or fighting game culture, I should say. And so I was sensitive to that as well, going in and watching the film.
I love, do you know the backstory of how this movie got made and how it came to be?
Maybe I didn't sort of research any of that stuff. I'm sure I would have encountered at least some of that information in the past, but lay it on me.
Yeah. So I learned a lot I wrote a thing for Rotten Tomatoes in 2019 about like 5 reasons why it's not that bad. And I just dove into the research for it. And so Stephen E. D'Souza,
Mhm.
prolific writer at the time, they're like, hey man, we got some executives coming into town and they want to make a Street Fighter movie. do you got an idea for me? He's like, sure. He's like, but if we sell it, I get to direct it. And I'm like, oh yeah, okay. So he had a day or two to put something together. And he only knew about the game because he said his son put like a year's worth of college tuition into an arcade game and he just watched him play it. So he knew all the characters. And so he pitches this idea to the executives who are over Capcom executives who are over there. And he's like, let's just make like a James Bond movie where there's like a villain in a layer and everyone has to get to him in world destruction and you put characters on both sides and like we love it. And so he's like, yeah, I'll do like 7 characters. So he wrote the script, but then they're like, hey man, we got this new game coming out, can you put these characters in there? He's like, yeah, sure. He's like, well, can you get these characters in there? And he's like, sure. He's like, can you get these characters in there? And they're like, sure. And then they had 6 weeks of shooting, which, oh, no, 10 weeks of shooting, 4 in Thailand, 4 in Australia, but like they started behind already. They were shot in a place with a tin roof and it rained all the time. Jean-Claude Van Damme admittedly had like a cocaine habit, so he was gone a lot during the shoot. That's why Ming Na Wen and other characters get a lot more screen time because like I need to shoot something. And like this whole thing was just like a mess. You know, he stopped sharing names of what the actors were because you know a lot of the Capcom executives wanted Japanese actors. So he just started showing photos and not their names and where they were from. But then you have like a hodgepodge of people from all over the world and got them in there. And then they wanted this one actor to be in here, but he turned him into Captain Awada. And it was just a total mess. And it happened so fast. The movie happened so fast. And you can tell on screen, it's one of those movies where I've learned that there's a type of movie where you're not thinking about the script. You're not thinking about character development. You're just thinking about getting your days. You're on set and you're like, we got to get something. Like, we got to get through this day. We got to film something. And that's one of these movies. And you can always feel them when you watch one of these things. But yeah, it just came together fast. It was about Bond. And then he had to throw all the characters in. Then he had an issue with Jean-Claude Van Damme. He had to give Raúl Juliá and Jean-Claude Van Damme a lot of the budget. This movie only cost $30 million to make, plus the fees for Jean-Claude Van Damme and Raúl. Like that was a big chunk. So $20 million. It was just crazy. And I kind of love like all the stories about it. But there's still some things to love. Like I think Bison is a very fun character. But it makes like Guile, he goes rogue on the military, correct? He's like, I am gonna go.
So he's the commander of not the UN, the AN, the Allied Nations, because the UN, I guess.
Yeah, won't let you have that.
And, and he defies, I guess, like a bureaucratic order to stand down. Yeah. So he does completely go rogue. But everyone follows him, right? They follow him into battle.
I mean, he makes a speech.
There's this like Neville Chamberlain type character
yes.
who just wants to appease Bison and pay off the ransom or something. And Van Damme says, hell no. And off they go. Yeah.
It's in their boats. And, you know,
in their gunships. Yeah.
Guile dies 3 times in this movie. Kind of. So Ken and Ryu shoot him.
Right. And so he fakes one death.
And then the boat blows up. Everyone thinks he's dead. And at the end, everyone thinks he's blown up.
Well, that's why he's called Guile. Right? Makes perfect sense.
Well, when you think about this movie, I don't think about Jean-Claude Van Damme. Like I think the guy who plays Zangief pops in this movie, Andrew Bynarski.
Zangief has my favorite character arc in it.
Yes, he does.
He learns the proper way to do a thumbs up.
Yeah. No. That's a funny bit. There's a little moments like that are great.
But so this does also kind of speak to the question of I haven't done any research on this, so it would be entirely anecdotal, but I do think there was a little bit of confusion and disappointment that it's like, okay, on the one hand, if you're going into this as a fan, you want the bit of fan service, you want to see all the familiar characters because, there are certain characters who are just simply more iconic and they're part of the legacy of the franchise. So if you were to do any kind of Street Fighter IP, these are the characters you cannot escape having in there. They need to feature centrally. But then what do you do with all the side characters? Because they're not as quote unquote important, but they're somebody's favorite character, right? They want them in there. And so the problem with this is you have too big a roster of characters to shoehorn in every place you can get. And the only way to do it is to have Zangief, who's like a Soviet wrestler, be like a bouncer. Okay, maybe there's a little bit of a bridge there, but like you've got DJ, who's this like sort of happy-go-lucky Jamaican fella who's like a tech advisor. That doesn't make sense. You've got the sumo wrestler, E Honda, and then the Balrog the boxer as like
news crew.
Yeah, it's just that's the stuff that's where you're inviting a lot of criticism, I think. We're
Yeah.
just like, yeah, this doesn't quite work. Now, to be fair, the actual storyline of Street Fighter 2, on which these characters are based, doesn't quite work. The storyline of the game is that this dictator Bison has organized this tournament of all the world's most powerful hand-to-hand combatants so that he can pit them against each other and then determine who's the strongest and then sweep in and beat that guy, thereby taking over the world because he's proven himself to be strongest. Now that's obviously fucking stupid as a as a premise for a movie, but so I think they can be forgiven for thinking, okay, we need an actual story of some sort here, but yeah, the manner in which they just have to kind of contrive ways to have all the characters make their little appearances, even while like notably, there's a couple characters who are notably absent, and then they add one, the Japanese guy, not a
Yeah.
character in the games at all. They just kind of figure out some new character to bring him in because they wanted to kind of make him a big star. Didn't happen obviously because the film was a failure, but yeah, there's one scene that really sticks out like a sore thumb is the one moment in which he's speaking Japanese to a subordinate, and he gets his one big moment in spoken Japanese because they were just trying to primp this one actor. And at least they do have him in speaking Japanese in the one scene, which is good because his English is atrocious.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the ADR across this film, we're talking about sound mixing.
Mm-mm.
Yeah, this movie this movie's pretty bad in
Yeah.
that regard. Yeah.
Really bad. And they wanted him to be Ryu. And D'Souza was like, well, he's great, but he can't really speak English. So then they wrote that role for him so he could be in the movie.
That seemed like a producer's concession, right? They said,
Yeah.
okay, the folks from Capcom were like, no, you need to have like one Japanese character, authentic Japanese character in there. Here's who we want. And they figured out a way to write him in and give him a couple of moments that pop, right? That's
Like
really all it comes down to.
shoehorn him in. And I love that between Bloodsport, Lionheart, and what's the other? The Quest. Those are all
Mhm.
fighting tournament movies. And then Jean-Claude
Yeah.
Van Damme comes into this one and there's no fighting tournament.
Well, there's no, I mean, I
there's
mean, to be
there's no
fair,
street fights.
yeah, this
Yeah.
movie, this movie's got everything except actual street fighting.
Yeah. Yeah. No, like this, there's not even a tournament. There's about to be a fight, and Guile drives a armored vehicle into a Shadaloo building, which he could have killed many people. He doesn't in the film. Maybe he's so good he knows he won't just murder people, but yeah, he breaks up a fight that's about to happen, which could have been fun. So that's we got that.
What is kind of remarkable about this is we're just thrust into this like seemingly really complicated geopolitical crisis
Yes.
with very little exposition as to what's going on, right? We're hurled into it right at the jump. And so I was curious, whether the producers essentially expected the audience to know the characters well enough to just kind of be along with it, or
Oh,
they were assuming, oh, it's the 90s, it's like Rwanda and Kosovo. It's like you guys know what a geopolitical crisis involving like NATO forces essentially looks like, right? So we already have a common vocabulary. We can just thrust you into a made up one and you'll kind of get the score. Made me wonder.
that's actually kind of smart though. You just chuck them into it. You know the people from the video game. You know a couple of the actors. You know these geopolitical events. Like, let's get into it. I mean, that makes sense. But if you didn't know the video game, you're like, who's this guy? Why am I watching this? Like, who are these arms dealers selling fake guns? Why is that awesome guy from Last of the Mohicans in this movie? Like, who is that?
Playing a Thai gangster.
Yeah. So,
Yeah,
yeah.
I mean, yeah, we're,
Yeah.
we're caught. The movie's really caught between these sort of phases of cultural sensitivity, right?
Yeah.
We've by the late '80s when Street Fighter is really taking off, and into the '90s when it's become a real phenomenon, we've definitely moved into an era of globalization in which all of these nationalities and ethnicities feature more or less on equal footing. But we have not yet reached a time when Hollywood gives two shits about casting actors whose ethnicities match the characters they're playing. So Wes Studi playing a Thai gangster is a case in point. Jean-Claude Van Damme as an American is just kind of a weird absurdity, et cetera, right? So, I mean, Bison is based on Muammar Gaddafi, but in the game, but is also kind of implied to be Asian. And so having Raul Julia, and you're right, his performance is steals the movie, but there's really no attention paid to just sort of these the kind of ethnic contours of the characters.
Not at all.
which is something that you can guarantee that if there's another Street Fighter film or series kind of on the way, because I'm sure someone somewhere is working on it, that would be the major difference. I think would be the effort they put in to make sure someone is whoever plays Chun-Li will be ethnically Chinese or Taiwanese. They're not going to cast like a Japanese woman like they do with Memoirs of a Geisha in reverse.
Oh yeah.
They'll be sufficiently careful about these things because that's the moment we're in.
I mean, let's hope so. And it's interesting because this is 94. So I guess I really did like the international cast in this movie. And I didn't, at being 12, I didn't know where anybody was actually kind of from. So I kind of enjoyed that different look. But yeah, now when you like Byron Mann, he's a Chinese American, but then, they cast him as Ryu, who's Japanese. He's like, I'm just trying to get the best actors here. Cause I guess they had to prep this thing really fast. And because Jean-Claude Van Damme and Julia Julia signed on, they lost prep time because they didn't have as much money for prep time. So he was just trying to get any actors that could get the dialogue done. I'm not saying he's right, but it's just fun researching this movie and how it came to be. And actually, I have a couple thoughts for you.
Sure.
So if you ever lead an army, right, you become General Professor Mike Dillon
Of the AN?
of the AN, and you're
Okay.
leading a massive force on a fictional country, and I'm in the military and I get kidnapped. When you are on the news talking to the warlord, don't look
Right.
at me and go,
And go,
Mark.
Mark, buddy, I got you. We're coming for you. Just lay low, keep your head down. Mark Hoffmeyer, I'm talking to you. We're coming to save you.
Six
Don't let
three,
your
6'3".
Yeah, don't expose yourself because we don't want you to be leverage.
Lay low, buddy.
Lay low, buddy.
Yeah.
Mark Hoffmeyer.
He's on my shirt. Just yeah, please don't do that. Okay.
Then again, his he says, "Hey Charlie, buddy, we're coming for you. Like, don't worry, buddy." But his dog tags say Carlos,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
It's like not the same name. So
Oh, Guile. And then I have a question too. So Blanca gets turned evil by watching footage of just genocide and all this like bad stuff happening.
but his soul is intact because they counterbalance it with a conveniently already prepackaged clip, like a playlist of weddings and Martin Luther King
Kittens.
Jr.'s
Yeah.
"I Have a Dream" speech. I guess like one part "I Have a Dream" counterbalances like how much footage of Nazi Germany. The arithmetic there was a little lost on me, but
So
yeah.
you become an evil scientist for Bison. You flip, right?
Well,
Something.
well. I wouldn't. I'd stop you there because Dalsim does have this kind of very
Oh, he
critical.
is sassy.
Like,
Yeah.
he has this like "woe is me" line about how my science has been perverted for evil instead of for good, and he's like oddly philosophical about the nature of good and evil. So
Hey, tell you what, after I've crushed my enemies, we'll see about getting you published. That's a great line from Street Fighter. I love that. Okay, so you've been kidnapped. You're a good scientist.
okay.
You're needed, so you can be as sassy as you want and not murdered because Bison needs you. And you have to make somebody evil, but you can only do it with like 5 films. What 5 would you pick? Like, are you doing
Wait,
Serbian film? Are you doing like what
so I'm a little
funny
lost on the
games?
premise here. So I have the opportunity to
You
take
have me kidnapped. Like you
okay.
called me out. I have to get turned into a super soldier, and you're just like, I'm just gonna do my job. Whatever, it's fine. Mark's not that cool anyway. And you have to make me, watch a bunch of terrible stuff. What movies would you pick?
I see. So if I was strapping you to a chair,
Making
I
me
would just
evil.
put I would just put X versus Sever on a loop and just make you watch it over and over again, just until you've been driven utterly insane.
Oh man, that'd be like 3 viewings.
Or maybe I don't know, the ridiculous six, and just have you marinate in it until you Hulk out, basically.
And like Larry Crown or something. So that's interesting. You would take bad movies, legit like joyless bad movies, just to kind of
Joyless being key, yeah.
yeah, just to drive me insane as opposed to like Serbian film, martyrs, stuff like that.
Those movies will start to grow on you, right?
Yeah,
Because at
yeah,
some
they
point
will.
you'll pierce through the shock value and start to see like
The art.
you'll start to really you'll either start to see the art, or you'll get really kind of existential about well what is art, what is trash, and kind of think in this really heady space. But if I were to just give you Grown Ups 2, that's the quickest way I think to an assisted suicide.
I think Expert Sever was a good pick because I had to watch that for a franchise pictures article I wrote, and it's
It is unusually terrible.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And after I read about franchise pictures and what they did to directors, I get it. But even on that standard, it's terrible. So yeah, ballistic experts, I like that. If you gave me like Serbian film, Salo, what Martyrs, I'd just become a really intellectual super soldier, kind of like just
Or like a really pretentious one.
what say what you haven't watched High Tension? Ugh, the snap necks. I guess I could do that'd be a terrible soul like a super soldier who's has like a super movie snob that just snaps necks if you haven't watched the French extreme horror of the 2000s.
I think what would the name of that superhero, like the cinephile superhero, be? Mise en scène? This is a job for mise en scène.
I come out of the basement.
Or Criterion. That'd be a good
Criterion.
Criterion would be the villain. Criterion would be the super villain that mise en scène has to fight at the end.
Oh, that's amazing.
They fling DVDs at each other.
Like Kino Lorber and like there's a couple
Kino
other
Lorber.
There's a couple.
Should we be writing this down?
That's pretty good.
Are we about to sell a screenplay?
Like I team up with Vinegar Syndrome. No, I don't know if they're that pretentious. So that's like a different species altogether. Oh, I like mise en scène. Just snap and neck, unstoppable, but just unbearable. Wait, that's a good tagline: unbearable and unstoppable.
Hmm.
You didn't know that Sorcerer's a remake? Snap! There it is. That's a short film right there. Okay, so we got to the bottom of that. I have another question too. This is really random, but what were some funny? Like, did you like some of the line? Like the published line, I thought was really funny. I love the line when Bison's like, "I just want to take over the world. What's so like? All I want to do is rule the world. Is that so much to ask?" He's talking about like the temple will be in the ancient Bisonopolis shall be the wonder of the world, but the food court should be larger.
Yeah. So we need to the franchise. We need to make room for more franchise. The Bisonopolis stuff and the Bison Bucks. That's all great. I think I really liked. There's a moment toward the climax. There are these like satirical public announcements in the facility. It's like a female voice making HR statements, and one of them during the final battles, you can hear over the PA system something to the effect of, "Attention, soldiers. This is a reminder that maintaining your health coverage is your responsibility." Yeah. And the joke obviously is that this public address is being made while all the soldiers are being gunned down, haha. But all I could think about was like, Bison provides health coverage? Like, does that include dental? Like, working for Shadaloo, it seems like it's not a bad gig if you can get it.
I mean, DJ gets paid.
Zangief.
Yes, it doesn't.
Does not. Does not.
I mean, he gets a lot of chicken and protein, and he seems quite happy with his job. But Bison's the only one who really does the job there. Like people be like, "Bison, something's wrong," and Bison's like, "Well, switch to channels to sonar." "Oh yeah, we'll do that." "Well, have you looked at the cameras? Have you switched it to infrared?" "Oh yeah, I'll do that." Like Bison's giving everybody orders. "Oh, we can't do that, Bison." He's like, "Well, if you do this," I like the people he's hired aren't very great because Bison has to step in and do the work occasionally.
Yeah,
which makes me happy. And also, one moment I love is when Ken and when they meet Sagat and he's introducing them. He's like, "Hey, do you want some women?" And like, "No, we're good. We don't need women." But the two, like, for lack of a better term, escorts or whatever, they looked really bummed out. They go, "Oh," like I don't know why I find that to be funny. Like it's a terrible situation because you're just saying, "Hey, take these ladies," but their reaction, like it's such a weird world they live in because the two ladies seem legit bummed that Ken was like, "No, I don't want that." But like it's such a heightened, odd world. And I guess when I was 12, I didn't get a lot of the humor with the healthcare and will get you published. But I guess I connected. I was like, this movie's trying something here, and it doesn't really work. But there's
no, it does not.
No, but there's still some good like I guess for me is I know why this movie failed. I don't think, but also the latest Mortal Kombat, they spent the entire movie putting the team together, and there's no Mortal Kombat, so you can't do it putting together the team film. I guess mainly this movie made me appreciate Mortal Kombat 95 more because There's a tournament, people die. There's some awesome fights. Scorpion gets great moves. Sub-Zero gets great moves. Your soul is mine. Like Shang Tsung is awesome.
Yeah.
Johnny Cage is fun. Goro gets his moments, even though Goro was it was too big on set, couldn't do much. Like Sonya snaps necks. It makes me appreciate that movie more, and it kind of bums
Yeah.
me out that movie's not looked at as actually being good.
It's yeah, I mean, like, and Paul Anderson, his reputation is kind of up and down
Yeah,
after that, right? I mean, after Event Horizon, I think more accurately. But
yeah,
it's the one thing I'll say for the 95 Mortal Kombat is that what's weird about video game adaptations into movies, they typically come up with a new plot that's completely unrelated to the game, that's far more common than a straight adaptation. And I'm not sure why video game adaptations insist on doing this because we don't expect that from like adaptations of novels and things like that, right? You want to see the story of the game kind of represented on screen. And Mortal Kombat, I think, hews closer to the spirit of what the game is actually about
yeah.
than certainly more than the Street Fighter, which is this completely like weird concocted story. Without any actual street fighting. So yeah, I have a fondness. I do think the other thing about Mortal Kombat, because the more recent one with what's his name from the Raid as Sub-Zero and
Haslam,
Sanada as
yeah.
yeah as Scorpion. I mean, I don't know how you fared with it, but I really liked the last Mortal Kombat. I thought, is it amazing cinema? No, but as a Mortal Kombat movie, like I think it really kind of knocked it out of the park. And I think with Mortal Kombat you're able to go into because there is a justified supernatural element. There's like a different dimension full of these creatures and warriors, and so you're allowed a little bit more flexibility in giving people superpowers
Yeah.
that defy physics, and you can incorporate CGI. Notably, the Street Fighter. There's a couple of references to in-game moves and things like that, but for the most part, it's grounded. It's supposed to be grounded in reality, which is why when the physics start to get really weird, like when Jean-Claude Van Damme can leap across a chasm to deliver a kick, or Bison starts levitating. It starts getting, it just becomes slapstick, right? It becomes goofy. And I think this is probably a difficulty that any Street Fighter live action adaptation would presumably have and has had if you've watched like Legend of Chun-Li or any of these other attempts at it, right? It's just the physics defying move set don't really work unless you add a justification for a supernatural element. And if you do that, you have all of these cartoon physics you have to contend with. So Ryu and Ken, and most famously, they shoot the Hadouken, which is kind of a energy wave, right? This fireball that they throw out. I think if you were to have them do that in a live action film, you have to contend with these sort of thorny questions about, well, what is that actually? Is it actually fire? Is it plasma? Is it like a bolt of energy? And if you're hit by it, what's the effect of that? Does it burn? Is it like getting hit in the chest really hard with a basketball? Like what's the oomph of that, right? Where does it come from? Where does it go? And just I would never, it's an unenviable task, I think, to figure out how all of that works unless you can lean on a very supernatural kind of conceit, which Mortal Kombat gives you the flexibility to do that Street Fighter just doesn't, right? So
That's an incredible point. And they had a hard time with that on set. So Benny the Jet was the fight choreographer on this. But since it happened so fast, he didn't know anything about the video game. So everyone was getting trained the same way. But eventually they're like, hey, maybe we should learn some moves of our characters in this film. So that's why there's tiny little moments in here because, they had no time for training too. So let's see, Byron Mann, who plays Ryu. Which one is it? Ryu or Ryu?
so the Japanese pronunciation is Ryu,
Ryu.
which is yeah, it's Japanese for dragon, but the closest acceptable sort of English language pronunciation would be Ryu, but
Okay.
Ryu is just silly.
What everyone's been saying. Yeah. So Ryu.
They said it. People were saying it at the time, and it's name checked in the movie a lot. The Ryu, but Ryu would be
I guess I know
closer.
the right way to say it and the wrong way to say it, but I've heard it both for decades. So Ryu, he was just eating lunch and they're like, hey, your fight's coming up. So he said he pulled a Thai extra who was also a stuntman and he taught him a couple knife stunts, which
So
I love.
strange that the kind of thinking about the characters' move sets would be such an afterthought in a film that is supposed to be what birthed into existence as a bit of fan service, right? People love this game, so let's make a movie of it. Oh, wait, what do they love about the game? Wow, we'll figure it out much later. Far too late. That's that's a mix up of priorities, I think.
They just had no time. And I think they had to keep adding characters. And then also Charlie Pacerni, who has done everything stunts wise. I'm sure you know about him, stunt coordinator in Demolition Man, which we'll talk about eventually.
Oh yes,
You know,
please.
True Romance, even Loaded Weapon 1. I mean, the guy had done Lethal Weapon 3, Last Boy Scout, so many different movies. The guy had been working, he was the second unit director on this. And I guess he was fighting with D'Souza because D'Souza's like, listen, we got to shoot this fast, but we need some like comic book moves. But like everyone's like, what's up our video game? We need some video game moves. But everyone's like, what's this video? Like, what video game moves? Like, no one was on the same page. Because I think, you know, it was D'Souza's first directorial debut. It was his first feature length. He had done Tales from the Crypt, but he had the first feature length directing job. And like he just maybe mainstream. So I don't think he maybe had full control from what I was learning on this set. Then he had JCVD running around. I think people just kind of went rogue a little bit on it. But yeah, there's no standout fights whatsoever in this film. There's
Some of the what Guile is known for, one of his moves in the game is the flash kick, where he
yeah,
just
the
kind
flat. Mm-hmm.
of does the reverse up and down, whatever. I don't know. I don't know. I don't even know how you describe it. The flash kick. He pulls off a couple of those, or
Mm-hmm.
his stunt double does. That's all right. I do enjoy some of those in the climactic fight, but it's choppy. It's a mess, I think. You know what the vibe this movie gives me the most, as I was watching it, is Hot Shots.
Yeah, yeah,
There's
but,
just
but not as good.
not as good, but there's so many things that ostensibly aren't gags that feel like gags, like Dalsum's laboratory, full of
Oh,
all these beakers and
yeah,
the IV bag,
yes, yes,
it's like and they're very very helpfully labeled like DNA mutagen and
yes.
the saline drip for turning someone into like a rage monster. That all that stuff was, there's like an arms sale scene with all these like weird kind of Middle Eastern characters and people from all across the globe like selling missiles and things. And I was like, this looks like a scene from Hot Shots too.
Oh man, and also Bison's office, like the painting. There's a scene where
Bison's quarters. Oh my
incredible.
God.
Like there's a scene where
Incredible.
Ming-Na Wen is monologuing, or no, Bison's monologuing, and he walks by this self-portrait, which I'm presuming he did himself, and she just stops and goes, "What is that?" And when he's making her drinks, he has M. Bison swizzle sticks
Yeah.
for his glasses. Like if you freeze frame it on that bar, there's even the book holder is a Bison thing, and there's a chandelier of bones because he likes bones in the game. But yeah, there's some, and he has hats. He
Hats. Just I mean,
he has
my
a night
God.
robe.
This moment when he
It's great.
when he changes into a robe and then changes hats. I mean, just zero notes on his performance, right? He Raúl Julia, via con Dios,
Yeah.
as it says at the end of the credits there. I mean, just the monologues I think need to be studied. Like he understood the assignment, right? There's a moment that I love when he's it's a critical moment in one of these kind of dastardly monologues he's giving, and he clenches his fist really dramatically, and there's a Foley sound of his glove crinkling that they thought to add in there. It's perfection, right? He's so good. And this, I mean, I kept thinking, because I interview filmmakers all the time because I run a Q&A series at my university, I was obsessed with the art direction. Like you're pointing out, right? This is a good lesson, I think, in how to stretch a dollar, because obviously the film's really cheaply made and cheap looking, but it does seem like they pulled out all the stops. I mean, props to the prop department.
That they're the MVPs with the hats
They're the
and
MV,
just
the hats, but
yeah.
also like the little drink stirrers that you noted. Like
Yes.
it's like, let's see how many things we can stamp with the Shadaloo logo. It's almost like a dare, right? Like a challenge, because it's on everything. It's on screensavers, it's
Yeah.
on the cocktail stirrers, it's everywhere, and there's hats, and just wow, the his Bison's quarters during the, I guess, seduction scene, if you want to call it that, is just on another level.
I
It's
freeze framed
bananas.
the bookshelf and I couldn't see the top row, but on the bottom row, it's battle strategy and World War II and like how to, like, not how to run a dictatorship, but successful dictators type book. So they actually went and got
Right,
books that,
dictatorship for dummies.
yeah, exactly. Like they got books like that Bison might read. So if you frame it and freeze frame it and you're reading the title of these books and it's about like World War II strategy. There's a World War II book. And so he's in his room and his claw chair, ivory horn chair. I can't really explain his chair, and his chandelier is incredible, by the way. But
Hmm.
and there's someone has to go in that room every day and light candles because those are just loose candles on top of the chandelier. If you pause it just right, so I guess he has a minion, maybe Zangief, who goes in every morning with fresh candles and lights them on top of his skull chandelier, which is a touch I like. But he's in his claw chair, just reading his World War II strategy books,
With
making
a
mixed
neckerchief.
with
He's
a
got a neckerchief on
neckerchief,
us.
a night hat, a night robe, and he's having a nightcap and his bison emblazoned glasses with swizzle sticks.
I know that the for me it was a Tuesday line is
Yeah.
really iconic, obviously, but I couldn't help staring at the drinks, these sort of weird pineapple drinks he's holding in his hands when he delivers that monologue. Just yeah, you're right. The painting, the bone chandelier, it's just it's all mustache twirling, right? Proverbial mustache twirling the whole time. It just yeah, it's such a good performance. And I mean, he's obviously knowing that he was just riddled with was it stomach cancer at the time and
Yeah.
just he's so gaunt, right? So there is something kind of like there's a kind of a soul in his performance that is additive, knowing that this was his last one and he passed away shortly after. And it's sort of like, yeah, it's there's something melancholy about it, but what a way to go out, you know.
It's
Thank you
just
for your service.
there's just you're right though, no notes. There's just something, and everyone loved him on the crew. They said that at night he would sneak out and he would either in Australia or Thailand, he would go gambling and he would have a real Cuban cigar. And he would just be like, they said he called him a sly cat. That's what someone said. He would sneak out at night because, I guess he just knew that he didn't have long. He's on location. His kids wanted him to make this film. So he would just go out at night and gamble with a big Cuban cigar during the shooting of this. And
I do, yeah, yeah. Not to be too sentimental about it, but I mean, he was a fabulous actor. This really cool screen presence for a lot of years. And then, people can say, "Oh, what a shame that he went out on such a turkey of a movie." But it's like, no, you know what? There's a lot of affection even among people who just universally agree this movie sucks. They will still caveat that, like, yeah, but Raul Julia is clearly having a blast, right? And so to have his memory and his legacy kind of cemented in this otherwise like genuinely enjoyable performance. Is it his best? Of course not, but it's thoroughly fun, right? And for that to be kind of a little pinpoint in his career, I think, is there's something kind of sweet about that. People have a lot of affection for him and remember him affectionately for what he for how much he went out swinging. Let's just say.
and the that's maybe why I love it so much is it's he didn't phone it in, and I think that's why I love Frank Langella and Dolph Lundgren, who I also wrote about them in 19. So I haven't figured out a fourth, and it's been 6 years, and I still haven't figured out a fourth for this wall. But you can just tell they enjoyed themselves, and you can always tell when an actor phones in a role or just not even phone it in, just does exactly what's needed of them. But yeah, just how he just owned it, and it makes me very happy. And
As opposed to Van Damme, who is utterly phoning it in, right?
phoning it in. Oh gosh.
He hasn't he, I may be misremembering, but hasn't he basically admitted that he doesn't really remember being in this movie because
Yes,
he was
yeah.
so coked out of his mind the whole time?
10,000 a week coke habit. He said he had. And the Wrangler that they put on him ended up partying with him. And he would go to the mainland, he would go somewhere and party in Hong Kong. I don't know. He would go somewhere and then just not come back. And I guess he would wait in his trailer until people were ready for him. And yeah, there aren't too many kind words spoken about
Yeah.
JCVD.
Was he involved with Kylie Minogue at the
He
time, or is
said
that
he was.
okay?
And he was married too, but he's like, she's beautiful. So I showed her my Thailand. So she's never talked about it, but he said he did. But he doesn't remember it. So I don't know why he's saying that years later.
Okay. Well, her performance is
Everyone
pretty
loved her
something as
though.
well.
Everyone said she was
Well,
great.
she's so breathy.
Yeah.
Every line read she has, it sounds like she just got off a treadmill. So I clocked that a little bit.
This movie, there really are. There's 45 subplots. What's kind of crazy? What I loved about JCVD growing up, he was a guy who was kind of not. I'm not going to say soft, but he allowed himself to lose in fights. He like, I guess he always had sex scenes in his movies too. That's like something he was known for. And then you always get tons of butt shots of
Butt
JCVD.
shots, yeah.
But I don't know, he just seemed to be kind of a little bit different, a little bit more like sensitive, a little bit more fallible. Like he could get beat up in his movies more so than the other actors. And so I like that. But then this one, all he does is smack talk, legit phones it in. Oh, and also D'Souza said that when he worked with Arnold, he and Arnold would run lines at night. And so instead of like, Arnold had trouble with words, so they wouldn't have alliterative words that Arnold could not pronounce. So they would work on the script to make it seem like to help his English get better and to work around his accent. And like, if there's certain vowels he couldn't say, if there's certain words that sounded odd, they wouldn't add those. So D'Souza wanted to do the same thing with JCVD, but JCVD was like, I got it, I'm working on it. And he would just come on set and butcher everything. And that big speech he made, he did in one take because that's all the time they had. Like, didn't have much time, so he just went and knocked it out in one take. And he's like, that's the best we're gonna get. So then they
Although
moved
to
on
be
from
fair,
there.
to be fair, you mean the
Yeah,
AN speech, like I'm
yeah,
gonna kick Bison's ass. That's not a bad take, I think,
yeah.
if
No,
that's all they
yeah.
had. The
Like they're
moment though that I wondered if he improvised was the moment in the beginning of the film when he hijacks the television feed and basically outs Charlie. He has this weird move. It's kind of like a wrestling taunt where he like slaps his own bicep and
oh, that
is
was
like,
awesome.
yeah.
Yeah.
That I wondered if that was if that was scripted or is it JCVD just hamming it.
I mean, but if he did, that's a really good improv. That's a great move. And it's just a coked out JCVD doing something funny. But you know what line they had to add later with ADR? When they first turned this movie in, according to D'Souza, they gave it an R. So then they trimmed it way back and they gave it a G. So this is an interview he did. So
A
then,
G?
yeah,
For Street
seriously.
Fighter?
Yeah. Because of no blood, no sex, like there's everything, there's nothing offensible about it. Because there's really no blood in this movie. There's no
Well,
gratuitous.
right, but there's a lot of gunfire and people
Yeah.
getting mowed down, right? I would think PG I would get and why they wanted to sort of inflate it back up to PG-13 because PG does seem a little too family friendly for something that's like aimed to teenage boys. I would get why the PG would be a turnoff, but G?
Yeah. So he said G, and then they added 4 years of ROTC for this shit. Like that was added in
I did
ADR.
catch that line. I did catch that line because it made no sense that so oh wow, you really are an American, are you, Guile?
Yeah. And so they did that to, then they're like, oh, okay, you got a PG-13. So, but he has some of his lines though. He's like, you have made me a very happy man. And next I'll make you a dead one. Just, I'm okay. I'm just half dead. And Bison,
Yeah,
all dead.
all
You're like,
dead.
oh man.
You know, one thing I noted about this is no one in the movie seems like they understand what stealth means.
No, there's no stealth.
Because,
The
okay, so
stealth
first of
mode
all,
isn't stealthy.
well, the stealth mode, first of all, there's like, you caught it, there's like a tiny little cheap ass panel with a little silver switch that says stealth mode. It's like a light switch. You turn it on or off. But then, okay, so they're in stealth mode. They're approaching Bison's compound. And then they just start blasting rounds at the radar towers. Like, are you aiming for stealth or are you announcing your presence, right? Because that's what alerts Bison to
DJ,
the
yeah, yeah.
and then he sort of plays this like minesweeper video game. So it's like, no, this is not how stealth works, Guile. But then there's another scene when Chun-Li wears a ninja outfit to infiltrate some compound, right? And so she's dressed in all black, except this, so she's in this like bodysuit that's all black for the purposes of stealth, except for her face. Like she's completely clad in black, except for this perfect Chun-Li's face shaped hole that plus you're on television a lot. You're infiltrating this space and making yourself the most easy person to identify in the whole room, right? This is not how stealth works. Very strange.
I'm telling, they had no time for this movie. I think they had no time, and they said when they got there, they were 2 weeks in and 9 days behind schedule already. So I think they're just like, we need something to do, and all right, let's do this scene where you sneak in here. Like, let's just go. Let's go. Like and then you get a movie like this. Like I think D'Souza was just on set. He said he was ripping pages out of the script. Like, remember when Chung Lee and crew get caught? You never see that. Like,
Oh,
they're just
true.
caught
Yeah.
because he said he was just ripping pages out of the script. So it's just, he not only was he ripping pages out of the script, but he was adding scenes just to do something that day. And I think that's,
Yeah.
I mean,
I do have a degree of sympathy over projects that are just kind of coming apart at the seams. And like you say, you're just like running and gunning and let's just try to get as much coverage as we can and then salvage it and see what we can do with it. That these things do happen, right? You know, you get, of course, like a diva of a movie star who's like gumming up the works. You get financing that falls through. You run out of time. You run out of light in the day, and you gotta scramble. Like these things do happen. was more of a curiosity to me was like the most immediate comparison point for this film is of course Super Mario Brothers, which came out like a year
Oh,
before and flopped, right? Now I have a lot of affection for that film in certain ways, its production design and
oh
a
yeah.
few things going on, but I was surprised how goofy and slapsticky Street Fighter is, given that after the failure of Mario, you'd think they would kind of flee in the other direction and maybe go for something grittier or more grounded. And it feels like the fact that they leaned into the slapstick comedy so much right after the failure of Super Mario is like a real misread of the market,
I think
I
this whole
guess.
movie was a misread. I think they just wanted to get something out there. Like I think this is about as cynical as they come, right? And they just didn't have time to think of. And D'Souza, he just writes quips. Good writer, but he there's so many one-liners.
Yeah.
So I don't know. And there's like that Godzilla fight. I don't think
Yeah.
Zangief. They don't even. I only see a couple hits. These guys wrestled for about 45 minutes, just tussling through the building, which is
Yeah, just the those gags, they don't feel written, right? They feel like, all right, let's just come up with something on the spot.
yeah.
That's primarily a sound gag, so they could have just come up with it in post. Like, hey, we can just slap the Godzilla soundtrack on here. Maybe it'll get a laugh. Maybe it won't. Who knows? Let's try, find out. And
Let's make something
the
work.
slapdash nature of it, yeah.
And but I'll tell you what though, if this movie was a hit, I would happily watch this cast. Get Wes Studi back, get Zangief back, Ming Na Wen, get them all. Like I wouldn't mind watching these. Would you mind watching this crew of actors in another one of these movies? Or like maybe let's say it's better with more planning. Like I found them to be kind of charming. Not the acting isn't great and the writing isn't great and the movie isn't great, but I wouldn't mind seeing them back in 2 years later in another Street Fighter movie. Would you not want
Maybe,
that?
maybe, but I mean, the maybe the obvious analog to that would be, you have an affection for the 95 Mortal Kombat, but how do you feel about Mortal Kombat Annihilation? Because I don't know that I'm on board for one of those,
That was horrifying. I remember
right?
watching that in theaters and going, this isn't it. Like even as a maybe 14, 15, I was like, this is not right.
Although I will say our boy JJ Perry doubles for Scorpion
Nice.
on Annihilation. Like he's got a scene in there. So
I mean, that's another rushed BS movie where they had to pick up new people and just they knocked that thing out so quick. That was bad. That was a bad movie. But I mean, but you know what though? This movie's not good. I think Mortal Kombat is good, and I think the fighting in it is good. This movie is not good. So I don't know if they had a quality drop to Annihilation, that'd be shocking to me. Like I would expect if they did another one of these, maybe on par, and I could still have fun with it. Then I
mhm.
don't I because it doesn't start from a good place. It starts from Street Fighter. So yeah, I mean, maybe if they had time, they would find their characters a little bit more. But I
I
don't know.
do wonder whether or not if someone I did hear somewhere, I don't know if this is still happening, but the who are the two Aussie brothers who did Talk to Me and
Oh, Philippou
the
brothers.
Philippou, the brothers?
Yeah.
Yeah. I did see somewhere that they were attached to a Street Fighter adaptation of some kind. Now, this was a while back, so I don't know if they're still attached to it or if it's in turnaround, but so someone somewhere is working on this. I do wonder whether or not in the era of like Netflix and streaming shows that maybe Street Fighter could be a like a series. That way you can give yourself some breathing room in terms of when to have your characters kind of and the obvious sort of main character would have to be Chun-Li because in the context of the game she's an Interpol investigator um
And
who's
Chris Khan
searching.
comes back.
Yeah, you could throw in these little Easter eggs. That would be, I would be for it. I
He's
don't know if
insane
Jason,
in that movie, by the way. I just want the Legend of Chung Li.
his line readings are terrific.
Yes.
Yeah, I've been investigating this shadowy organization called Shadaloo.
He
And we
walks
do
through
get
raindrops.
he walks through the raindrops. Uh, and you know what? I mean, your listeners should go YouTube this. I do believe it's available as an excerpted clip. The Chun-Li's signature move, which is the spinning bird kick, which is this sort of inverted helicopter leg thing that she does. And you want to see how the physics of that do not work in real life. Take a look at how they try to pull it off in Legend of Chun Li, and you'll see it's like, yeah, nobody should ever be attempting this. It
And there's
looks way too weird. And
and there's even a
so,
bathroom fight that's not good.
doesn't one of the Black Eyed Peas play like the
Yes,
big bad in
yes.
that film? So,
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, unfortunate. But I do think if you stretch this out into a series, because there's already a globe trotting element to it, not to turn it into a Mission Impossible type thing, but you could have different episodes that have the characters have to travel to different parts of the world and have sort of the side characters, the lesser known characters appear as one-offs in one sort of B plot line that encompasses an episode. And there's a way to do it, I think, that could work.
Like a
And then
Highlander
Bison, of course, is your
situation.
yeah.
Like
Yeah, yeah. You could
he's just going down hunting down other Highlanders, aka other Street Fighters, and then just Clancy Brown comes out of nowhere screaming, swinging a sword at one of them, and we got a movie.
yeah.
He's
Are you
Kurgan's a good villain.
are you aware or just I was curious about this is a bit of trivia, but do you know that the names are different? Bison is called Vega in Japan.
Oh, I did not know that.
Yeah, yeah. So okay, so let me back up a bit. The original Street Fighter 2 game has a roster of 8 characters. So they introduced Chun-Li, and Chun-Li is notably like the first playable female character, and that's kind of why she's so iconic. And maybe there's earlier versions, but she's like a major addition, being female. Then Guile, Blanca, Honda, all these other characters. But the original game had 4 boss characters that you couldn't play, and then in later iterations of the game, they became playable. But so in the Japanese original iteration, you fight an African American boxer named M. Bison.
Hmm.
And then you fight a sort of a matador character wearing a mask with the claw, and his name is Balrog. And then you fight this Thai gangster who Ryu has some history with because he's a featured character in the first game who wears an eye patch and he's named Sagat. And then you fight the final boss, which is the Raul Julia character named Vega. That's the original roster name. So when the game came to America, they thought, huh, okay, you've got this African American boxer named Mike Bison. Okay, we're gonna get, which is the obvious insert, and
Yeah.
they're like, no, we're gonna get sued. So let's shuffle the names around. And so Sagat remained Sagat, but the Balrog character became Vega because he's Spanish. And then the boxer became Balrog, and then the final boss became M. Bison. And so even to this day, if you go to an arcade in Japan and play Street Fighter, if you want to play Vega, you're playing the Raul Julia character. And so that's a
Whoa.
point, and so that's a weird point of sort of translation because I saw this movie in Japan and everyone is calling it's like that's not Bison, that's Bison, that's not Vega, that's Vega. What's going on here?
So the general
So
vibe
yeah,
was not pleasant in Japan towards this film. Would
well,
you?
it's not. I mean, I don't think it's the least of the movie's problems, right? But
Yeah.
it was a point of confusion, right? Because people had to have that explained to them. They're like, did the Americans get all the names wrong? How did that happen? And then people had to say, no, no, no. There was this whole issue with Mike Tyson, basically. So, but yeah, to this day, there are sort of, when the games reach America or, every new Street Fighter game, they do have to kind of do a name swap, depending on what region of the world you're in.
That's fun. I did not know that. Learn. Hey, thank you. Sorry, I wish I had more for you, but that's good. I never. That was a good. That was a inside baseball thing right there. Inside sports. I like that.
Yeah, yeah. No, if you play Street Fighter in Japan, if you want to play Balrog, you will get the guy in the mask, not
What
the
do you
boxer.
What do you think are the four? Like, what do you think are the best video game adaptations? Like, what would you like? I enjoy the new Sonic
Oh,
movies. Like, I think they're fun, but like I think I don't know. Mortal Kombat is up there. I think Paul W. S. Anderson's Resident Evil.
sure. Yeah, I think those merit consideration.
Not Doom, not Blood Rain.
Not too nothing by Uwe Boll. Try as he does, and God bless him.
DOA. I had
Um,
a good interview with him. I talked to him on Movies, Films, and Flicks, and we had a nice chat about filmmaking.
yeah, what's
And
he like?
I think he liked me because everyone tries to piss him off and be like, "What do you think about critics?" And I was like, "Hey, man, what do you think about filmmaking? How was it making? What was it like making a movie in New York?" And we just talked about filmmaking in New York and unions and how much time gets wasted with traffic. And I, I don't go for headlines, so we just like he liked me. Like he's like, "Yeah, if I ever come to Georgia, I'm calling you." So yeah, we became kind of buds. It was a real amiable thing, and his blood pressure didn't raise, and we just had a nice chat.
That's lovely. Yeah, I'd
Yeah.
be really curious about how aware of your own reputation are you? Like, do you have a sense of humor about it? Does it upset you that people kind of dismiss you in this way? Because I think, I mean, he's out there, he's hustling, he's making movies, he has a particular kind of auteur flourish to his stuff, and I think he's kind of a remarkable character
He's
in
is
of
he a
himself.
disruptor, would you say? In that like He exploited German tax. If you read about the tax loopholes that he used, it's really fascinating. With the way that people can put money into funding films, and then they don't have to pay taxes, and then they get paid back, and then they don't spend as much money as they would have, and but you have to make them really fast to be within the same year, calendar year. Uh, and he found a way to do it, and this movie's got released in theaters. And I interrupted you there, but he found a way, and I find that to be very interesting and almost admirable.
Yeah, I remember there was this petition that someone put out there to, if we get, I don't know, quarter of a million signatures or something, then Uwe Boll will have to stop making movies. Do you remember this? That it
Yeah,
was
yeah, yeah.
some while
Oh,
ago, and it was so inappropriate. It's like, hey, I mean, if people are willing to put up the money and actors are willing to work with him, it's just like let him do his thing. You don't have to watch the movies if you don't like his stuff. But just this idea of he has trampled on so many of our video game favorites and turned out bad adaptations that he needs to be stopped. It was just sort of it struck me as there's a mean-spiritedness to the way people talk about Uwe Boll that's separate from the kind of quality of his films. And I'm just really curious about it. You'd have to find a delicate way to ask him this subject, but I'm just curious about, yeah, how do you not take it personally?
his walls
You
are
know?
so high that I noticed because I listened to a lot of interviews with him in preparation. So I was like, I'm not even going to go there. But you're right. I would love to hear that about him. But the 2000s were pretty aggressive time anyway. Like the fans were very aggressive at that time. So no, but he keeps making movies. So he's made Dark Knight with Army Hammer. I guess he had to change the name. But
Oh, Army Hammer was available, huh? Strange.
yeah. But think about it. Think like he's smart. You make a movie, you go, okay, Army Hammer, I can get it for cheap. That'll get press. Let's call it Dark Knight. That'll get press. So articles were everywhere that he casted Army Hammer in a movie called Dark Knight. So that got the press out there for it.
Is that
So
Knight with an N or with a K?
N. And then he changed it. He had to change it. But it still got out there. So I think, I appreciate the hustle, I guess, for what he has. I know
He
it's not Street
seems,
Fighter,
yeah,
but
yeah. I don't know if you saw the Romanian film. Was it last year? The Do Not Expect Too Much from the End of the World.
oh yeah, he was on that. Yeah,
He
she's
has a cameo in there just
yeah.
to basically like to look into the camera and go like, "Go fuck yourself."
And people get even her. She was like, yeah, people say this. He's like, yeah, up yours. Like, so he has a very combat. I mean, he boxed movie critics, but um, which is an interesting doc if you ever watch that. But I actually love that ending
Yeah,
of
I
that
know all
movie.
about that. Yeah.
I used to drive around all day in a car trying to buy stuff for productions, and like I did a Rolex watch in Augusta on like that golf course that I forget the name of it that no one can go on. And it was a lot of like hoity people. And so I was running around all day buying all this stuff for people. And then they went out for dinner. And there's a scene where she can't really sit with them, like when they're eating. So like they went in one area and then I got sent into another area to eat. Like I wasn't, worthy of sitting with them because I was like a PA at the time.
Mhm.
So watching that movie brought back a lot of memories of my early days on film sets or working for commercials because it felt exactly like what I went through. I mean, there's a lot of differences. I wasn't on using Snapchat filters and like doing other things, but no sleep, driving around all over the place. That movie hits pretty close to home for me, and I really liked it. It has nothing to do
Yeah,
with Street Fighter.
I no, of course not. I did top 10 Do Not Expect last year. I can't remember where I ranked it, but I think I ranked it kind of high. The previous film by that same director from Romania is called Good Luck Banging or Loony Porn. Fantastic.
I'll have to
Really
watch that then.
subversive film. Yeah,
All
check
right.
it out. But yeah, so your question was like video game adaptations. I like the original 95 Mortal Kombat. I really like the more recent Mortal Kombat. I know that there's a sequel coming, so I hope it doesn't disappoint. Detective Pikachu, I know, is pretty
That was fun.
well regarded. I feel like right now there's some TV shows that I haven't seen, but I keep hearing about. So like The Last of Us, that's based on a video game,
Oh
right?
yeah, you're right.
Fallout, I know, is kind of
Oh yeah,
getting a
that
lot of good
people dig
press.
that.
People dig it. Yeah, I haven't seen it, but and I haven't played the game either. That's why I don't play a lot of video games.
Mm-mm.
If I'm being honest. So
Monster Hunter's fun. Mila Jovovich and Tony Jaa just fighting in a desert.
is that also WS?
Yeah, and the end of
Yeah.
it goes insane. You're like, what's happening? And I like Need for Speed, but I think I'm just a big Imogen Poots fan because she just can have chemistry with anybody. So maybe that's why I like that film. But if I okay, so if I had to do a top four, I would do Street Fighter. I would do not Street Fighter. I would do Mortal Kombat. I would do Resident Evil. I would do Laura Croft Tomb Raider, The Cradle of Life, because she rides a jet ski and she punches a shark in the face.
She punches a shark.
Yeah, so that gets it. And then I already have Paul W.S. I mean, maybe Sonic 3, because there's some dance scenes that Jim Carrey does that are very watchable. So I'm gonna do that one. I know Werewolves Within is out. That's really good, but it's a smaller video game. So I'm gonna do Sonic 3. That's my four.
I don't know that I have much to add. I'd have to go back and rewatch the Final Fantasy movies, because like Spirits Within, there was this whole
Yeah.
fanfare over the CGI, but like, is the movie actually good? I'd have to take another look. Advent Children, which is Japanese, is actually pretty bananas.
Okay. Advent Children.
It's got some really extended kind of like motorcycle chase sequences that are just completely insane. That one's all right. I'm with you. All the ones you listed. I don't know that I have anything to add. Certainly not like Wing Commander. Well, you know what?
The Freddie Prince Matthew Lillard connection right
Yeah,
there.
we do have our mutual love for Dacascos, so I might throw in Double Dragon
Oh yeah. And
just for
there's jet ski
sentimental
action
value.
scenes in that.
So there you go.
Oh man, I'm dropping Sonic 3. I'm doing Double Dragon because that's jet skis and explosions. So any other thoughts about Street Fighter 94?
I don't think so. I think
We did
we
it.
covered it sufficiently.
Props are great. Zangief is great.
Then give you just the campy pageantry of the whole thing, and it's odd that you can feel from the way the pacing of it and the editing and the kind of slapdash nature of the action design that yeah, you guys were really out of time and you were just doing your best. But weirdly, it looks like your prop master really had a good heads up on stuff, right? Because just
Yeah.
it's so fun to look at and just freeze frame is like, what is that object in the background? It's fantastic. I do hope someone somewhere has just like a little garage full of old Street Fighter like on set used stuff, because it's just a treasure trove, right? Of just Shadaloo embroidered knickknacks. I would love to have been on that set.
I kind of want to. I hope you get the production designer one day or the prop master for a talk. Bring him into class
Yeah, I'd have to look it up. I wonder if they're working.
because it's very inspired. And also Shadaloo, my daughter, when she learned Baby Shark, she used to call it Sha Doo Doo. So Shark Doo Doo, and it was the cutest thing.
Shadoo do do
Yeah, I
do
was
do
like,
do do.
she'd go Sha Doo Doo, and I was like, oh man, that's the cutest thing I've ever heard in my life. And so hearing Shadaloo brought back memories. She can sing the whole song now, so we don't get the baby stuff.
You should dress her up as
Um,
Bison for Halloween or something.
That'd be amazing.
Put her
Give
in the
her
little yeah,
swizzle
just paint
sticks.
paint some like styrofoam and give her the gauntlets, and just give her a hat, walk around and boss people around.
I mean, her name's Mallory, so Mal Bison.
And Bison, there you go.
Yeah,
Mal Bison, which would also be Spanish for bad bison. Bad bison.
oh, I love it. Hey, thank you so much for joining me, Professor
Of
Mike
course,
Dillon.
always a pleasure. Vaya con Dios.
All right, well, so for me, Mark Hoffmeyer, for Professor Mike Dillon, this is Movies, Films, and Flicks. We'll see you next week.